one day I was crossing the old campus and I was standing in front, I got as far as Patel, and I still remember, you know how you have those physical cellular memories? I heard this sound. And I felt like the earth had opened up in front of me. I felt like time had stopped, like every molecule in my body was rearranging because I knew I loved this thing. And there aren't that many times in my life when that's been so clear to me that everything inside me is lined up and said, I love that. I have to do that thing. I thought it was the most beautiful, wonderful, magical, heart-opening, grounding music I had ever heard. And I came in fear and trembling to audition, and and Laurie said, can you, hey, come
That sisterhood was so powerful when there were so few women at Yale. I don't think you could even imagine. My class, for example, had 1,000 men and 325 women. And the two classes before me, we were the third class, the ratio was even more insane.
I was at Yale when it was really pretty early for women, and I never felt like I felt at home here until I joined the Slavs, and then I felt safe. I felt happy. It changed my life.
Putting flowers in your hair and joining hands with your sisters and walking out singing was like this initiation into womanhood. When I think about how few rites of passage we have as Americans, that for me was like, I am a beautiful maiden.
It was safety, it was joy, it was strength. God bless the Slavs.
There was a house in Branford, and half the Russian chorus was always coming and going. And foremost among those people were cello and blues. The Slavic chorus kind of formed out of the Russian chorus, and their experiences, because the women weren't here yet, but they had encountered the music through people traveling over there, dancing and singing and bringing back records. And those records were always playing, and we were always in awe of the sounds that were produced by these women.
Most of the freshman women, not all, were in Vanderbilt Hall together, and they put up these posters in the entryway saying, audition for the Slavic chorus. And so I went and auditioned, and it really was, I have to say, the best thing I did in my time at Yale. I made most of my closest friends through the chorus.
The only song that I had any idea of was one that I knew the dance to, so I launched into Yovana Yovanke. And the two of them, they really had no expectation that any of the women coming in would know the repertoire, but they knew the repertoire, and the Russian chorus actually sang some arrangements of some of these songs, and both of them were kind of devoted to the idea that it should be sung by a chorus of women. And so, we owe them a lot.
We did have quite a number of concerts together with the Russian chorus and some also together, including ones with the folk dance group. We were learning as we went, really. We didn't know anything, at least I didn't know anything about it, except you heard the voice and tried to imitate it.
Extracurriculars is such a big part of the undergraduate education, and at that time we didn't have full access to sports teams, to senior societies, but we had the Slavs, so it had an extra special appeal and meaning and helped me anyway hold on to a good object and good stuff. And some disappointments and frustrations.
The men would say, the ones that had a problem with it going coeducation would say there's 3 sexes at Yale, men, women, and Yale women, whatever that means. So it was kind of tough.
A lot of women who chose to enroll were rather competitive.
Oh, very.
And not the most sort of lovey-dovey, gals to make friends with. But I did find the Slavs
Yeah. They said was they really selected women for resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that we were a resilient bunch.
For the first time was with all these people who were top of their class and read fast, and I didn't read fast. And so I started to get an intellectual inferiority complex here. But in the Slavic chorus, I felt at home, and I felt recognized and allowed to be who I was. And later on, because I didn't realize it then, but later on I was so grateful to have it be a place, and the only place at Yale, where you could be with other women, just with other women.
It made the difference in terms of just relationship. We had each other, and so it just flipped from this really initial really difficult startup into really being, a place of right relationship and song.
I didn't really know a week into the experience how important it would be to have a place where it was a majority of women, and it felt like, in a way, like a refuge. People have said that, but at that time I didn't feel like I was escaping from anything. It was just a real solid, wonderful experience you could count on.
that it really did broaden the experience here phenomenally.
But then, back then, we didn't have these kinds of conversations either about women's feelings and rights and experiences. It was a different feeling.
It's such an interesting thing that the Yale Slavic chorus was the first women's chorus at Yale, that Yale has a Slavic chorus. That this earthy group that you wouldn't think would be the first women's group at Yale, right? We're not the Whiff and Poofs or no, something like that. We are earthy. You are earthy, right? And it continues to be earthy and wonderful.
Standing and hearing the voices and being a part of that music and knowing that women had sung these songs, working together for how many, centuries. It was just such an anchoring thing. And, look, a kid from small town Texas trying to figure out what's going on in New Haven, for me, it was just like a lifeboat. And have always been so, so grateful for that experience.
Now you hear more of the music that we sing in more popular settings, but no one had ever heard any of this music. And most of our relatives and friends thought we were really kind of crazy to be singing this music, but it really was captivating.
I think other people probably thought it was, why are these people singing like this? But there was a significant group of people who thought it was like the coolest thing ever and came to all our concerts.
Music is mesmerizing, syncopation, the dissonance, all that great stuff.
The text was also something that fitted into the time and the mind frame, I think, of us, because it was very earthy. It was about life, about birth, about death, about planting and harvesting, and people loved that.
I've been completely unable to explain to Bulgarians. They want to know, do you have Bulgarian ancestors? How come you like this stuff? And all I can say is it's grabbed my soul,
I just wanted to make that sound.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sing those songs.
And we did.
There was something indelible, not only about this music. When we sang it last night, the words come back to us. And I'm happy for any evidence of neuronal functioning these days. I remember something, a whole class song. But also, I remember the sound of particular songs and who sang them. Yeah. So that when I saw Bizi, I said, Bizi, abrebatikoyo, because I can see her and hear her. Also, what I'm realizing is that that's very much in the tradition. We weren't trying to do that, but it's completely in the actual tradition. Say Cremena Sancheva. That's Cremena's song. If you go to Bulgaria, you don't sing that song. Because that's Cremena's song, and she sings it with her partner, and she's grown up singing it her whole life. And if her partner dies, she doesn't sing that song anymore.
When you think about the violence that some of those countries endured, especially against women, these kinds of music, I think, were age-old ways for women to empower one another and to build a more peaceful, strong identity, and to really help each other through the challenges of a very difficult, hard, kind of physical labor type life. They consoled each other. They talked about love and marriage. They consoled each other about deaths. And it was a very empowering kind of music, and I think it really changed my sense of identity.
I'm terrible at auditions because I sing by ear. I cannot read music. But I kept telling myself, well, the peasants in the field, they don't read music, right? They sing to each other, and that's how they learn. So I thought maybe this is a good fit.
I always had a soft-spoken voice, and that was part of my identity of being shy. And I think Slavs helped me learn to project in a way that I think helped me overcome that a little bit. In classical music, sopranos and high voices, we use head voice, and so it just becomes it's more soft and airy of a voice than the lower pitches. But then in Slavs, sopranos have such a powerful, sharp, direct voice, and I think that through that I kind of learned to express myself better.
I came from a family where my mom was a trained singer and a music teacher. My brother was a bass player, and we had a family band growing up, and we would perform at this cafe every other week, and so it was little neighborhood icon, and I hated it so much. I resented it, and people would come up to me and say, your family's so musical, and I just felt like such a fake because I didn't feel musical at all. I was in a jazz club in Berlin. I had taken a semester off, and it was sort of one of the classically cliche, lonely nights, wandering alone. And I walk into this tiny jazz club, and it's totally packed, and there's this little quartet group. And I was just watching their sort of the communication with their eyes between the musicians, just the little jokes that they would make, or kind of just signal to each other in these little ways. And I was so jealous of it. I was like, man, I wish I knew what that feels like, just to be so in sync with people. And then I was like, wait a minute, I know exactly what that feels like. That's what it feels like to be in Shu and Slavs. And that was the moment when I felt like a musician, and I had never expected to.
It taught me that what others might think of as, for example, incorrect, or I'm going to say the second, can be, for example, something that is so beautiful, so moving, and so right.
But coming from Texas, I always had this experience where people would come up to me and say, you'd be so much prettier if you wore more makeup. And, my hair is pretty straight, but I'd always be trying to curl it. And then I saw Sonia introducing the Yale Slavic Chorus, and I said, she looks beautiful, and she just has her hair just down to her shoulders, and she's wearing a pretty peasant blouse, and that's wonderful. And then Susan Lucibelli had long hair, and Amy Bressler had long hair, and it's like, this is okay. We can just have hair, and we can just have our blouses. And so then some of the other people in our dorm, they would say, oh yeah, Catherine, she's one of those granola types. So that was the terminology. But you have to remember, this was a different time. So we weren't, fashionable when we were walking around wearing our peasant blouses and skirts.
At that time, it was a little bit of a political statement, I think. I don't mean even a feminist statement, but a political statement to be singing songs from Bulgaria or wherever. These people are not our enemy. It was still the Cold War. And so I felt a little good about that.
Probably the end of my second year or third year with the chorus that Vlasta and Elizabeth came to me and they said, we want to do a project. We want to go to Eastern Europe and find out what people really sing. Like, I know we say these announcements on stage, like that women sing, they sing together their whole lives, women sing these songs, and like, it's really not clear if anybody is still singing this or who or what. Now there's lots of information. YouTube has opened up the world, I think, for contemporary Slavs or people in the chorus. But we didn't have that. We had recordings, and so these cassettes and these records that were, brought over, and the stuff that Ethel Rehm and Martin Koenig collected was pretty much all we had. So when we went to Eastern Europe in 1989 and 90, some of the things we collected were actually more records. We went to Bosnia for 4 months, we went to Bulgaria for 4 months, and then we went to Russia for 2 months. We showed up in Bosnia in 1989 when Bosnia was still part of Yugoslavia. We found music that we had never dreamed of, just hollering. Like, there was music. Like, the answer to that question was, there's music that you can never, in your wildest dreams, you could never imagine. And of course, the fabric of those communities in Bosnia has been broken.
In my work as communication director for UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, I was stationed in the Balkans. I was in Kosovo, Albania, Macedonia. I was in heavy shelling in Sarajevo. And coming back to New York where I live, I run into so many refugees, taxi drivers, nurses, all kinds of people. And I always sing for them, and they're always in shock, and it's always really moving. It's an amazing moment just between two people, because I know the atrocities that they went through and the traumas they went through. And I also have the Slavic chorus in my heart and my mind's eye as such a nurturing home for me. And to be able to put that all together and just have those holy moments, I feel like crying right now, when I sing Što mi milo and I just see their faces just open up. There's a sadness and there's a bittersweetness and there's just so much gratitude that someone knows where they came from and can communicate it.
It made it clear to me that music is a lens. It's through which one can learn unique things about a culture, and across which one can build a bridge to other cultures, in fact, to each other and to people all over the world, and you can explain cultures to one another musically in a way that isn't pedantic and that's deeply moving and visceral.
In 1975, I went to Europe for the first time, and then I had a long weekend, and the only place I wanted to go besides Switzerland was Yugoslavia. And I went to Belgrade, and I asked at the hostel, where can I hear folk music, the real original music from here? And they said, I'm really sorry, nobody sings that music anymore. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I sing that music. And I really wanted to hear it. And so then I went and I got something to eat, and I came back to the hostel in Belgrade, and there were 4 Macedonian men with a tape recorder sitting in the lobby of the hostel waiting for me. They said, sing, I think we spoke German together, and they said, sing for us. And I said, but I need two other voices, and I'm Macedonian. And they said, sing for us. And I sang Što mi je bilo drago for them.
In 71 or 72, the Moscow Circus came to New Haven. And so the Russian chorus and the Slavic chorus decided that we would all go to the circus. It was in the Coliseum. But then at the end, we all broke into Mnogo Yayeda, all of the Russian chorus and the Slavic chorus. And you have to remember this was 72, so it was during the Cold War. And they were so surprised, and I do remember that the circus master cried.
I was waiting in line at the airport in Nairobi to get onto a plane, and I heard somebody in front of me had an accent that sounded like it might be from the region of where we sing music. And I started talking to them, and they said they were from Bosnia. And they said, you probably don't know Bosnia. And I said, oh. And I said, well, in fact, I do. Do you know this song? And I sang a song that we're going to be singing together. I sang the refuge. And they just practically fell over. And they said, where are you from? Here. Don't get on the plane, stay with us. So, I mean, it has the power to not only keep friendships together, but to create instant friendships around the world. And I just appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone.
When I had a sort of a time in my life when things were falling apart, a marriage was ending, I remember something that happened to me. I got into a cab, I was going to an ashram that was across town. The guy sat down, and I looked and I saw, oh, you're from Bulgaria. He said, yeah, I'm from Bulgaria. And I go, okay, well, where are you going? 88th and West End. And he's just going through the park. And I said, oh, I know this one song from Bulgaria. And he says, oh, really? Yeah. And I don't know what possessed me, but I started singing Što mi je milo to him. And then he pulls up in front of the ashram, and I saw him take his hand and he smacked down the meter and he said, that's it. There's no charge for this cab ride. I said, what are you talking about? I go, what are you saying? I've got, I want to pay you. And he says, I've been driving a cab in New York City for 28 years. Nobody in all that time has spoken one word of Bulgarian to me. And he goes, and you sang it like they do in the old country. And I said, I would like to give you an enormous tip.
We sing a lot about sisterhood. We sing a lot about family things. But in those songs, there's actually a lot of war. I was giving a talk to a large group, several hundred people there. And this person in the audience puts up her hand and she says, I am a member of the Macedonian Parliament. And I said, Ako sisi mama libe mama. If you're a true Macedonian, maybe you will come with us to fight the
He would have loved how it's been developed.
The fact that Slavs have been around for 50 years and that I'm involved in a group with such a long history is just kind of this overwhelming feeling. Like I'm kind of part of this tradition and this legacy of women that have created a space for themselves and pushed back on the space that was traditionally occupied by men. and have kind of like paved their way. It's really inspiring.
We did a joint concert with the Russian chorus a little over a month ago, so that relationship is still and this is actually a warm-up that we learned from their current musical director.
One of the interesting things is how many of us have kept on doing this through our lives, regardless of profession or to some extent regardless of where we ended up.
I'm now living in Brooklyn, New York, and teaching elementary school. And last year I was asked to lead a choir. I, of course, thought of teaching them Shto as one of the first songs that I wanted to share with them, because the choir was all up to me. I could do whatever I wanted. And so, I know a lot of songs in a lot of different languages. Partway through them learning it, found out that the current Slavs, last year's group, were going to be coming to New York for a tour. And so I wrangled them to come and sing in my school for my kids, and got my new friends, my little students, to process in with the current Slavs singing Shto. And it was such a beautiful moment of the coming together of worlds.
When you get older, you realize that long-term friends are just extremely precious.
Yes.
So I'm grateful that I'm still here, that I can be here and see people. Some of them I haven't seen in 47 years.
In the Slavic chorus, I have met the most fabulous people. We have this connection. We could travel anywhere. They open their house. They take out their food, as do I. And I've made some really good lifetime friendships. And you learn so much about people when you sing with them and travel with them. And it's been the best experience. And I do meet women friends.
I also want to say we made the first recording in my era, which we made in the spring of '73. And when you look at the list of those who were in the chorus at that time and who participated in that recording, I think 2/3 of us are back for this reunion.
I think so too.
There really was, I think, a sense of community and a real core of friendship that formed there, so that even if we only see each other once a decade or even less often than that, it's important to come back.
Yes, people really want to come from that early group and remain very connected.
When we came together, it was, everything else was irrelevant. Yeah, and what actually strikes me still today, because the friends I met in 1968, were my very best friends, is a sort of mind, broad and inclusive and extremely creative and bright in several different ways.
For me, it was not just a community of women, but a community of like-minded people, even though our interests were very, very varied. Just a community of people who somehow had a similar openness in their worldview.
There was all these women who were like, studying the evolution of
certain plants in Costa Rica, or playing tectonics, or doing theater and writing and music and art and or linguistics or politics. Very having all these like amazing career aspirations, but could also cook. In the world I came from, you did one or the other. You didn't do both. It was a hotbed of progressive thinking. And excellent cooking and knitting that did also an appreciable side business in Slavic folk music.
They don't tend to be people who go into, a world of making money for money or whatever. Like, they're all people who are in the arts or nonprofits or social justice somehow, I don't know, really cool stuff. So that's one of the things I noticed even when I was in the chorus, and then to see what we've all become afterwards is so exciting as well.
And we also had this sense of a larger community precisely because you were part of
Yes, the community outside of Yale, people who worked at Yale, graduate students, wives of graduate students. And it's a larger chorus, and I think it was really beneficial to undergrads and grads alike just to be together, different people, a village.
To me, it was so exciting because there were no women models at Yale. I don't think I ever had a women teacher. And so that there were older women and did different things around here, and one that was a mother, to me was great. I could have just a little glimpse of how else life could be.
Being a graduate student, I was a little older than most of the Slavs. And also, at some point during that time, I got married. Okay. And then after a couple of years, I got pregnant. And in the fullness of time, I actually had a baby. I've had an additional child, and several of them have had children. So I kind of get the feeling that I taught them how to do it, as you might say.
I've met so many wonderful people at these reunions. And I feel that they're, especially the groups that put on the reunions every 5 years, I feel like I know all of them too. They're all friends because of that common experience.
We heard about this kind of Golden Fest style Balkan singing and dancing thing that was going to be happening in the Hudson Valley, and we all made plans to go. But then everyone else dropped out except for me. And I still really wanted to go, even though I didn't have any of my friends with me. And so I went anyway. And I got there and I didn't know anybody. And I was at the desk buying my ticket, and I said to the woman,
I was selling the tickets.
and I said to the woman who was selling the tickets, this is so awkward. I was like, I was in the Yale Women's Slavic chorus. And you were like, me too. Right?
And I think we started singing right there.
Like pretty much.
Yeah. I'd driven down from Maine with my husband and 2 little kids. So yeah, they trailed us the whole time.
Yes, we were like stuck together, and then the family was like
and
not
now,
in the group.
Nikki travels the world and comes to Maine.
Yeah.
Like almost every year.
Almost every year.
And we spent the whole
Maine.
time singing.
Yeah. Anyway, it was amazing to find you. Like, it was like finding something really precious in the middle of, somewhere totally unexpected.
It truly is.
I can't imagine my life without Slavs because it would be so radically different. I mean, I probably would have left Yale in my freshman year or sophomore year had it not been for Slavs, because I got here and it was like, I didn't know where I belonged, I didn't know who I belonged with. I felt really unmoored and, would call home every day. And Slavs was the place where twice a week I knew that I would feel like I belonged. Every week. And then that was always the case, that the people that I felt closest to at Yale were people in Slavs. And it's continued to be true that the people that I have remained closest to from Yale are Slavs. I'm not friends with anybody from my class. I'm friends with people who I was in Slavs with.
2.5 years ago, I was hit by a car, and not in my home state, had to fly home and have surgery and recuperate for a really long time. And the Boston Slavs, many of whom did not know me before we started singing together, took care of me. They came through. It was pretty amazing. And it's like, whoa, that's what sisterhood is. These are my people. You're my people.
I just wanted to say, in a way, I was thinking about it, it's like a marriage, because we have been together and sung each other through divorce, death, sickness, till we do part kind of thing. We've been through it all together, and that's amazing. And sung through it.
As a Slav, I felt that Slavs, obviously you guys were my friends, but it was way more than that. You guys were legit a family. And for me, that meant it wasn't just sunshine and unicorns. Our year totally had some arguments. I started a lot of them, they were about food. I know I mentioned this, but that was important to me because we were able to communicate and be that close and be on that level that we trusted each other enough to speak our minds. And just being here now, you know, a lot of us don't know each other very well or at all, but people are already sharing, you know, intimate stories as if we were all best friends. And to me, that is the point of Slavs. So I'm so glad.
This is my daughter Hannah. If you didn't know this story, I snuck Hannah into the reunion 20 years ago when she was 15 or 16 years old. I didn't tell anybody, I just said, learn these songs and wear this outfit. So she came and she sang for the whole weekend. And later we heard that the Slavs of that time said to me, oh, we just thought she was a very well-preserved alumna. And then 5 years later, she was directing this. And the advice I kept giving her is when those old codgers tell you what to do, or they didn't used to do things like they do them now, you just smile and do it the way you were going to do it anyway.
I think we can all agree that Yale is not an easy place, and I'm sure we all think that for a variety of reasons. And for me, Slavs has very much given me a sense of place at Yale that I otherwise would not have. I think around October, classic story, I broke up with my high school boyfriend. I mentioned this to one of the Slavs at rehearsal and that I was very upset about it. And later that evening, at least 5 Slavs showed up to the Davenport Library where I was struggling over a paper with candy and hot chocolates and hugs, and it was the most incredible thing. And the first question I had was, why do these girls care so much about me? Because it's October. You'll have known me for 2 months at most. And I see no reason why you should feel so close to me, to feel compelled to, you know, just be such wonderful people to me. And now that I'm here and I see all of you, I know exactly why. It's because that Slavs has such a legacy of wonderful, kind, just fantastic women. And especially with all the original members here, I just want to thank all of you for creating this space for me, and as this very small, helpless Slav that I am.
To Bulgaria, and we had this buddy system. Everyone thought I was being like, we're in this little village, you like walk in pairs, and then one afternoon we were at our teacher's house waiting for the lesson to start, and Rachel Gladys limps in, and she's like bleeding, and she's like, don't catch me, and I was like, where's your buddy? And she's like, I didn't have a buddy. And then we were like, where's this dog? And she's like, it ran away. And we were like, oh no. And rabies is endemic in Bulgaria. We took
Jen Satellite phone, and we called Rachel's parents. And they're like, hi guys, Rachel's parents are doctors, right? Rachel's parents are, and they were like at a dinner party with like the head vet of the World Health Organization. And this person was like, listen, you've got to get the immunoglobulin shot. You cannot pass go, you will die if you don't. There are like 2 shots you have to get. So we stayed up the whole night. We called like the embassy. It was like all night, and up until like 4 a.m. The plan was at 6, I was gonna drive Rachel to the airport, and she was gonna fly to either like Athens or Vienna, whatever the next like plane was, because they didn't have the right shots in Bulgaria. The whole village was mortified. They kept being like, oh my God, no, we gotta find the owner, we'll find the owner. Turned out the owner was like the town drunk or something. And it was so hard to find his dog and him, but then they like at 5:30, they show up with the dog's vaccination record.
One story about the dancing, which goes back to the vodka. It's one thing to drink a tot of vodka before your performance and go out and hold each other's hands and stand up on stage. But it's quite another thing to have done that and do spinning around dancing. And some of our performances were in Sprague Hall, and the stage is canted slightly. It's an orchestra stage, so it's got a very slight slope. You really don't see it when you stand up. But we were doing some Croatian or Hungarian dances that spin around in a circle of four people, and we nearly fell off the edge of the stage.
Just express so much gratitude for the fact that this has existed for so long, not magically or kind of naturally out of the winds of the world, but because of all the work that everyone has put into it over the years. So especially first to the Slavs of this year for organizing. Also to all the non-Slavs and Slavs adjacent who have supported all of us in doing this for years and years. Those are the partners and the family members and the roommates who are like okay with us rehearsing our parts. So thank you to all of you, and a lot of you are in this.
Many years ago, I was sitting in a circle not unlike this one, and somebody posed the question, how do you define yourself? And I panicked. I have no idea. And we went all around the circle as people said intelligent and heartwarming things, and I was trying to think, and I was last, and at the very end I blurted out, I'm defined by what I love. And I thought, oh, well, actually that's true, and it's become a kind of litmus test. It seems that all of us have decided that this is something that we love, because we've each talked about how this is defining in our lives and how we feel this kinship with one another because we all know that we love this. And I hope that we always, no matter how old, again, will continue to define ourselves by those things that we truly love and seek the companionship of those humans, especially women, who love those things right by our sides.